What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I hope you like this video. This is going to be your review for Cartel Cruise Season 1, Episode 8. Now, let me say this. This episode was absolutely everything. It was a great, great episode. I got a lot to say, so buckle up because it might get long. I'm trying not to, but it might get long. So, we pick up, remember at the end of last week, Los and Diana had walked off, and Stephanie pretty much left Stephanie and Nicole by themselves. Now, of course, they were with production and all that because they were like, we don't even know how to get back. So, of course, they're going to get back to the house. But it's just the point that Los left them by themselves in an area that they keep emphasizing how dangerous the area is. And these are two women, half-dressed, left in the middle of Medellin. I don't want to mispronounce it. So they get back to the house, and Kat is back doing her hair, and they look a hot mess, okay? You can tell they done been walking, and the hair's all frizzy and everything, and Kat is like, well, where the hell y'all been? Like, what? Y'all look crazy. And they reiterated the story, and she was like, Los left y'all alone? Like, she was so irritated by it. But they get themselves together, and they end up going to a church. Now, oh my gosh, it's so much about this whole cartel mindset and lifestyle. Like, I grew up in the 80s, 90s, right? I'm an 80s, 90s baby. And I grew up with drugs. I grew up around drug dealers. I grew up with gang culture. I mean, I wasn't in it. I'm not saying I was in gangs and I was selling drugs, whatever. But what I'm saying is, you grew up seeing Crips and Bloods on TV. You grew up hearing stories. I lived in D.C. in the 80s, 90s. And D.C. was the murder capital of the world, like all that. So, but you didn't hear a lot about, in this area where I'm from, you didn't hear a lot about the cartel. You didn't hear a lot about that whole mindset, that lifestyle. So to hear some of these stories and to get this side of the drug business, it's just so, it's enlightening, but it's so crazy, right? And so there's the church where the hitmen will go to the church to bless their bullets before they went out and kill somebody. That's so crazy. How the cartel linked in their religion, and we saw it a lot with the mafia. When you look at, like, or hear or read about, that, like, they kept true to their Catholic roots, like, Sunday mass. All of their children had their first communion, and all of these different things that are part of Catholic culture, while they steadily out mobbing, right? And so it's a lot of the same thing. So you see this church, and it's like, and the fact that it has that reputation as that, like the fact that this is something that people know and they've heard of, it's crazy. So Kat doesn't go into church because she said that the assassins who killed her father came from this city, and she said, in all likelihood, they could have very easily gone to this church before they went and killed her father to bless their bullets. And so she was like, I can't bring myself to go in there knowing that I could be walking in their footsteps before they went to kill my dad. I'm like the lives that these people have lived is just crazy. So they go into the church. You have Los and Diana on one pew, and then you have Nicole and Stephanie on the other pew. And I'm so appreciative that they dressed appropriately to go into a church. You could definitely tell how they were raised because they were wearing very appropriate outfits. Because Nicole and Stephanie, they ain't got no problems putting all their business out. Boom, 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 and boom. So all of a sudden, Nicole has a moment. She's crying. She's praying. She's really having a moment. Diana is behind her talking about something. I just can't do this fake shit. I can't stand this fake shit. I can't do this. I mean, I know we in the church and everything, but I just can't be fake like this. And Los co-signing. Yeah, man, what's up with that? What's she all upset about? What's this about? Now, here's where I'm about to go off on my first tangent. I wasn't a big fan of Nicole's because Nicole, especially in those first couple of episodes, came off a certain way. And I really wasn't a big fan of Nicole. But in this particular episode, I mean, we heard about her talking about being bullied and things of that nature, but she talked about being bullied and being abused and wanting to kill herself and being suicidal. And there has to be a certain level of self-hate to look in the mirror and hate what you see so much that A, you want to kill yourself, and B, you are willing to put yourself and your body through an abnormal amount of pain and discomfort to change what you see. Nicole is very upfront about her plastic surgery. She's proud of her plastic surgery because she said, hey, I didn't like who I was. And so I basically created the woman I wanted to be. And I'm cool with the fact that I'm plastic because I like what I see in the mirror now. There has to be a certain level of self-hate, right, to get to that point. And we've seen it in celebrities, Michael Jackson, Lil' Kim, like the list goes on and on. To look in the mirror and not like what you see. There's got to be something there. So for Diana to be sitting behind this woman and making fun of her and making her little smart comments and laughing. I mean, they're laughing in church at this woman praying. First of all, you don't get to judge somebody else's pain. You don't know why this woman was crying. You have no idea what her pain is, what that church did for her, what emotion she was feeling. And you don't get to judge that. You don't get to judge that. And to laugh and make fun of her, that was just about, oh, she just needs the attention. She just wants the attention. No, she don't. I mean, she does. But in that moment, I don't think that was about attention. I mean, Nicole obviously loves attention. But in that moment, I don't think that's what that was about. That's my first little tangent. My second little tangent. Back in the States, back in Miami, Michael is having a breakdown. I'm not trying to over-exaggerate it. I'm not trying to make it out to be something it's not. But Michael is having a breakdown. What we find out is that's the first time he's actually seen his mother's grave. He had never, because remember, he couldn't go back. He has a bounty on his head. He can't go home. He said, and it's something he said that hit me, which again, the lives these people have dealt with. He said, I don't have anybody to talk to. Everybody that I love that would understand my pain is gone. And he said, I love Marie. Marie is my queen. He said, but she can't even begin to understand what I've been through. And everybody that would understand or that I loved, my uncles, my aunts, my cousins, my brothers, my mother, they have all been killed. I don't have anybody to talk to about this. Like, that is so deep. And he was in the bed. He wouldn't get out the bed. He was in a depression. And, you know, Nicole, y'all know Marie ain't my favorite person either most of the time. But Marie said to him, she said, look, I don't like seeing you like this. She said, I get it that your family is gone, but you have a family and you have something to live for and we need you. I said, you better tell him, Marie. She said, look, can you please get some help? Can you go talk to a therapist, go talk to somebody, because I don't like seeing you like this. And at that moment, she sort of left it that way. But he does end up going to talk to a therapist later on in the episode, and we'll get to that. The other thing that's going on in Miami, because we're just going to go ahead and jump back to Colombia for the rest of it. Marie is trying to get her image off that website that Nicole found. Now, here's another little tangent. Like I said, this episode had a lot of social issues in it. The sad thing about the internet is that it is permanent. And Marie's thing was, it was good money. I was young. I had fun with it. Made some bad decisions. But now I'm in a different place. I'm not that person anymore. And I don't want my daughter to be able to Google me and see that. And I think that a lot of us make bad decisions. And the difference is, in this day and age, it's permanent. Because it's on the internet and it doesn't go anywhere. Thank God there was no Instagram and Facebook when I was in high school and in college, making the mistakes that I was making and doing the things I was doing. Because, you know, if I come across a picture that looked crazy, I can just tear the picture up. But when it's on a permanent in a permanent environment, there's nothing you can do about it. So she went to see a lawyer, and the lawyer was honest with her. The lawyer was like, look, it's the internet and it's permanent, and there's really not a whole lot I can promise you, but we'll try. Marie signed a release, and I'm sure that release covers them from everything. I'm sure that release covers them from pretty much every liability and that they have every right to do whatever they want with those pictures. I'm certain of it. And at this point, now that you're on this show and you're becoming even more popular and you've said what the username is and everything, it's somebody Googling it right now. And if you think that out of the goodness of their heart they're going to take your picture down, now they might be able to make a deal. You might be able to pay them off, but I just feel for Nicole because she said, you know, Michael is going through what he's going through, and I know the one thing Michael hates is that webcamming, and if I could get it taken care of, I know that would help. So she's trying to, you know, she just wants to get that done again. Like she said, I'm not that person anymore. I don't want my daughter to have to deal with that anymore. So back in Colombia, they're sitting down to dinner. You got Los and Diana in one corner, and you got Nicole and Stephanie in the other corner, and poor Kat is just in the middle. And Los is like, you know, I just can't be fake. You know, Stephanie just thinks she's this and she thinks she's that, and I just can't deal with it. You know, I just can't do this. This is just too fake for me. You know, da-da-da-da-da-da. Then you have Diana, of course, you know, Diana's a bitch. Now, in this particular episode, she sort of came around to some things. We'll get to that in a second. But Diana is a bitch. But remember this. Hurt people hurt people. So she's dealing with her own shit. And I believe that's why she is such a bitch to other people. Because hurt people hurt people. So they're sitting down to dinner. Kat is you know, coming in late. The four of them are sitting there, barely talking to each other, barely acknowledging each other. And Stephanie says, you know what? Let's find out if Kat is coming to dinner. Because if she's not, we're just going to go somewhere else and eat. We'll go to another part of the house and eat. And Lo said something. And I don't remember what he said. But whatever it was, it started the argument. They got the arguing. And they're going back and forth. And they yelling. And here come Kat. Kat's like, what the fuck? She said, we are here. I brought y'all here for a reason. And then, of course, here go Los. Well, I didn't come here for that. What did you bring me for then? I didn't come here for this. I didn't come here for this. And they get to arguing. Honey, Kat got up in Los' face to the point where you saw security get up. Like, you could see people moving in the background. Security was ready for whatever was about to pop off. Because when I say Los could have told you how many teeth Kat had in her mouth, she was so close to him. And to his credit, he ain't come at her. You know, he didn't hit her or nothing like that. I mean, I don't think Los is that kind of person. I think Los has triggers. We'll get to that. But Stephanie said, I have never seen Kat like this. I have never seen Kat like this. She said, I appreciate that Kat's defending me. Because what Kat what the argument between her and Los got into how Los was talking to Stephanie. And she was like, you know, I don't care how mad you get. I don't care how irritated somebody is. You don't have a right to be abusive towards them. You don't have a right to abuse them. Like that, you don't have that right. Verbally abuse them. So everybody calms down, they get back to the table, and they actually get to talking. And Kat is trying to explain to Los why what he's doing ain't cool. And Diana says, you know, look, nobody's letting Los talk. She said, you know, Kat, you haven't heard the other side of the story. You've only heard one side of the story. She said, but look, this is how it went down. Los opened himself up to us. He really, you know, left himself vulnerable to us. And it was sort of thrown back in his face. And so they were trying to explain that. Kat's thing was, I get it. That doesn't give you the right to say whatever you want to say to people. So then Diana and Nicole got into the conversation about the abuse piece of it. And Diana said, well, I read that Nicole said nothing happened. So I'm just going by what I read. Nicole was like, are you going to believe everything you read? Like, you just going to believe that? And, like, I'm telling you what happened. And Kat said, well, I heard the other side of the story. And so because I heard the other side of the story, that's what I'm choosing to believe. She said, and Diana, you've been a victim. You've been a victim of abuse. So I'm surprised that you would be so cavalier about somebody else's pain. And Nicole said that to her. Nicole said, look, let me explain to you. She said, I was abused. And for you to question my story, it hurt. She said, I've been in other abusive relationships. I have been abused. And Kat said, and the reason why I choose to believe the victim is because people don't believe the victim, which y'all go back to my video about believing the victims, but that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. And Diana said, you know what? You're right. I hear you. You're right, and I hear you. And Nicole went on to say to her, like, for you to have been somebody who's a victim, why would you come at me that way? And Diana said, I don't know. She said, the way I met you, the way that you came at my little party, like, I guess I just was holding on to that, and I wasn't ready, and I was just, she said, I'm sorry. So for that, Diana, I can respect the fact that you can accept that you were wrong and accept that what you did was wrong and that you apologize. You're still a bitch, but I can appreciate that you accepted it and you apologized for it. And I think it did. I do believe it was sincere, because she was like, I don't know why I was beating you. Like, I don't know. So then we had Stephanie talking to Los, and Stephanie said to Los, she said, look, there are other ways to abuse people other than physically. Verbal abuse is real, and that is what you were doing to me, and that's what I need you to understand. And Stephanie said, you know what? She said, I said some things that triggered you, and for that I was wrong. I'm sorry. But you have to figure out a way to talk to people without going below the belt, without going there. She said, you could have said the exact same thing you said to me without the cursing, without the nastiness, and it would have been just as effective, because I triggered you and I was wrong. But the way you responded is not okay, and you can't talk to people that way, especially women. Lo said, you know what? She right. I said, what? And so they were able to talk it out, and they were able to come to some sort of happy medium. And for that, I'm glad, because I think everybody had some, well, except for Diana. I think Los and Stephanie had some valid points in their argument about the triggering and what was said and how it was said. Nicole certainly had a valid point in you not believing the victim and you choosing to believe the blogs and the internet over I'm sitting right here telling you what happened to me. But I do believe that they sort of all came to a happy little medium, right? So that worked itself out. Now, not last but not least, but then the next day they went to, it was Pablo Escobar's jail. And come to find out, what happened was Pablo Escobar told the government he would turn himself in, but he wanted to build his own jail. And when he built the jail, of course, he built escape routes and tunnels and ways to get out of the jail. And then the government found out that he was torturing and killing people in the jail. I guess he was. Y'all let him build his own damn jail. But what they've done is the country has taken that jail and they've turned it into a retirement home for the elderly. And so this is where they were doing their charity work. And they spent the day talking to the residents and playing games with them and spending time with them. And let me tell y'all something, and I mean this with all the sincerity in my heart. If y'all don't believe nothing I say, if y'all think I bullshit, and I laugh and joke about a lot of stuff, but I'm so sincere when I say this to you. I have a passion for history. I have a passion for what came before me, a need to understand it. I mean, that's what I do for a living. I'm an educator, and those are my roots, are in social studies and in history. So I always enjoy talking to the elderly because they are the window to the past. And when people pass away, so much leaves with them, especially the elderly. The older you are, the more you know, the more wisdom you have. And so I always enjoy talking. And I mean, I'm talking about random people, my grandmother's friends, people at church. I enjoy hearing what other people, and it doesn't always have to be somebody famous. This summer, I did a program where I spent a month. It was a program about the civil rights movement, and I spent a month meeting actual people who were members of who were part of the civil rights movement. I mean, people I'd read about in books, people whose pictures I saw in very famous pictures, and it was a wonderful experience to talk to these people and hear about the front lines of SNCC. And these are people who were best friends with Stokely Carmichael and Diane Nash. Like, got it, right? But as much as I enjoyed talking to them, I enjoyed talking to the woman that was in the room next to my grandmother at her retirement home, right? Getting her story, finding out, well, what, you'll be surprised what you learn. I'm telling y'all, take that time out. This society, American culture, we don't respect our elderly like we should. All right, I'm done with that. Let's get back to this. But it was great to see, again, you hear them telling their stories about how beautiful this city was in the 70s and the 60s and the 70s, and how the 80s came and the drugs came and the gangs came, and they talked about car bombs going off, and it wasn't safe to leave your house at night. And the guy who runs the home talked about his 11-year-old friend when they were young going to the pharmacy to get his mom's prescription, and a car bomb went off and killed him. And Diana said, when myself and my husband decided to go into the drug trade, all we thought about was what we could get out of it. The money, the material things, like the fun, like, the trips and stuff. That's all we thought about. But to see how it affected people, children, she said, it really gives me a whole different mindset. And I really know that what the decisions that me and my husband made, how it affected our children. And so that was good to see. Nicole let her guard down, and she's laughing and joking with everybody. But it was great to hear these stories about what people went through, good and bad, because they told some fun, some nice things too. But of course, they told a lot about the effects of the cartels and the gangs on their city. Lastly, and I told y'all this was going to be long, so sorry, but I'm almost done. Michael goes to talk to a therapist, and that's when we find out that this is the first time that he actually saw his mother's grave, and how it sort of just triggered him. And it triggered all that rage and his need for revenge, and how it made him really want to just go out and find the people who did this to his mother. He said, but I know I can't do that. He said, but there's nobody for me to talk to about it. Everybody that I would have called that could have calmed me down or could have talked to me about it, they're gone. And when you spend your whole life just burying people, there's a trauma there that can't, regardless of whether people say, well, they brought it on themselves, or they were drug dealers, or they knew what they were doing. It doesn't change the trauma, especially for somebody like Michael, who was born into it. It's real easy for us to say, oh, well, he was a drug dealer. That's all he knew. That is all he knew. He grew up, he was born into a cartel. His mother is infamous around the world. She's one of the biggest cartel runners in the world. That's all he knew. And imagine, the one thing about illegal gangs is that you can't truly enjoy it, especially in the drug game. You can't trust anybody. You always looking over your shoulder. You got all this money that you got to figure out how you going to spend it. Because you can't just go out here and be all willy-nilly, because then it's going to set off alarms, especially now. Back in the 70s and 80s, you could probably spend a little money a little easier. But now, everything is electronic. It's so easy to trace. Like, it's got to be, you can have millions. I remember when Reveiw, one of the biggest drug dealers in really in the United States, but certainly in D.C., I remember when he was arrested, and they were talking about how they went into the basement of one of the houses, and it was just money on the floor. Money on the floor. And you know why it was just money on the floor? Because Reveiw wouldn't spend ones. He just would ball up ones and throw them on the floor. He didn't spend $1 bills. He didn't mess with ones. And so, imagine having that kind of money that you just throwing money on the floor because it's not good enough for you, right? You don't have nothing else. You can't truly enjoy the fruits of your labor, and you can't trust anybody. You always worried about somebody trying to take your spot. It's not an easy life. From the outside looking in, it looks real glamorous and fun, but on the inside, it's a lot. And Michael has dealt with that trauma, so I applaud him for getting help. Mental health is always something that's looked down upon, but I applaud him for getting the help. I applaud him for opening up. Now, I don't know if this was a real therapist or not, because he was asking some questions that I was like, Like, he was talking about something, so, that narco life must have been hard. Don't nobody use that word narco. Who says that? Who says that? And especially before the TV show, wasn't nobody saying narco. Anyway, y'all let me know what y'all think. That's how this episode went. And we only have 2 episodes left for this season. When they order shows, a lot of times they order 10 episodes to see how people are going to like it. So, there are 10 episodes of Cartel Life. I hope that it's been popular enough that they're going to order a second season, and that the second season will be here soon. But so far, so good, you guys. I'm really enjoying this show. Let me know what you think. Drop it in them comments. Peace. Comments. I said comments. Comments. Peace.